Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Whispers in the Woods, Dawnbringers, Rime of the Frostmaiden, Season 5, Episode 10. This is our long-running campaign that's kind of partial homebrew, made up of multiple modules, that happens every Thursday night right here on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, with all of these incredible folks that I am so honored and lucky to call my friends. Boy, if you missed last week, you missed one hell of a session. That's what I'm going to say. It was an absolute incredible. The last part of the session involved a custom magical enchantment ritual that Ted/Thorgarn had been working on for a very long time. That had been in the works for over a year, I believe, in real time. And it finally came to fruition. And we'll touch on that when we get rolling with the session as we reveal just what the actual effects of the ritual were on the ancestral weapon, the Great Maul known as Gerta, that Talmud carries. But before we do that, we're going to do a couple of quick announcements. First, actually, before I forget, since we had an influx here, I owe you 3 domain dice because we got raided by the big bearded nerd, Dwight, from his painting stream. We also got resubs from EverJ and Cole Sparks. Thank you, as always. EverJ is one of our original, I believe has a founder's badge because he's one of the originals at 31 months. So thank you so much for the continued support, EverJ, and Cole as well. The great thing about these subscriptions, gift subscriptions, resubs, donations, or tips of $5, cheering 500 bits, raids, all of this stuff, is you look up above V's head there and you'll see the 155 domain dice that the Dawnbringers have. That's you. That's you, the viewers, doing that and granting these dice to the players. And they get to use those for a variety of outcomes, as is explained in the block of text that just showed up when Jeremy typed domain dice. And believe me, they are not afraid to use these domain dice. But we are looking at, not necessarily for the domain dice, we are looking for new ways in which you can spend your channel points. I would like to encourage you to talk amongst yourselves in the chat and think of new ways that we can have non-disruptive uses of the channel points during our games that will allow you, from watching, you get all of this XP, you should be able to spend it. So we would love to hear from you on how we can do that. And probably the best way to do it would be to message us in the Discord. There's a Dawnbringers room in the Discord. If somebody wants to type !Discord, that'll get us going on that. I'm trying my hardest to ignore the antics that are clearly happening on screen from my 2 troublemakers. As I'm also adjusting for the domain dice. So real quick though, Dwight says just tag him on the Discord. He'll put it on a spreadsheet. Real quick, I want to touch on our partners and sponsors. You can see the logos on the screen. We are always and forever proud to be partnered with Jasper's Game Day as an official partner. Stay tuned for more information on the forthcoming 3rd annual Jasper's Game Week coming in the first week of May. In the meantime, you can follow the link that just showed up when Jeremy typed !Jasper, and you can click on that link and you can donate directly to help in their cause of raising awareness, education, and ultimately the prevention of suicide through tabletop gaming. Another way you can help out is through Initiative Coffee's Help Action, where we have Mitade branded coffee. For every 12-ounce bag you purchase, $3 of that is going to go to benefit Jasper's Game Day. Finally, we have our sponsor, Talon and Claw. You can head over to their Etsy store through the link that just showed up. Check out what kind of awesome wooden dice accessories such as vaults, dual hex vaults, rolling trays. He just introduced cutting boards that use strips of the various woods. All kinds of awesome products, and he's continually adding new stuff. When you go to check out, use code MTDClaw to get 10% off of your order and help support the channel. That's it for the regular announcements. The last thing that I want to talk to you about before we get into it, playing some make-believe here, having fun with some Dungeons and Dragons, is you matter. Your presence on this earth makes a difference, whether you believe that or not. It seems in varying degrees of difficulty, we are all struggling at various times, and sometimes at the same time. Spoons are in short supply, but that's okay. That's the first thing you need to know, is that it is okay to feel this way. It's okay to not be okay. But you don't have to be alone. You have ways, there are resources available for you to have somebody to talk to. And it's as simple as coming here to our chat whenever we're streaming or not streaming. It doesn't matter if we're online or not. Typing !help, and a series of phone numbers and text numbers and a URL will show up. You can call any of those numbers, look at the URL if you're not in the US or Canada, and you will find phone numbers and text numbers for all around the world, wherever you may be. There is somebody that is just a phone call or a text message away that is waiting to talk to you. So please don't hesitate to reach out and talk to somebody if you need to. All right, with that, I think it's time to play some Dungeons and Dragons. Let's do this. The Dawnbringers have found themselves in Icewind Dale, an already cold place, but of late, they've learned for the past 2 years, Icewind Dale has been frozen quite literally, in a perpetual winter and a perpetual night. There is a godlike or god entity known as Oriel, the Frostmaiden, that is maintaining this situation. They also know that the other half of their ship and their crew is missing, and now they believe it to be at the hands, or rather talons, of the white dragon known as Arviatris. But they don't yet know where their crew is. They have made their way from where they appeared in the frozen tundra down to the river, following the river to a road, and they wound up in the town of Lonelywood, where they have found themselves some quiet respite for the last couple of days. It has been quite nice to be put up, shown hospitality, given warm beds and warm clothes, access to purchase new cold weather supplies, everything they need to survive in this harsh environment. They've been staying at townspeaker Nimsy Huddle's home, where she keeps plying them with her homemade halfling cookies. They are in the shape of halflings. They are not made of halfling. I felt like that should be pointed out. And in our most recent session, Thorgarn, with the assistance of the Dawnbringers, performed a ritual that, with all of the preparation and the actual ritual itself, took well over 24 hours to complete. During this ritual, elements of all of the Dawnbringers and their companion Yesha were used to enhance and enchant the ancestral maul of the Gadawn clan, known as Gerta. It came at sacrifice to Thorgarn, who sacrificed his ability to do a more limited form of enchantment through his Forge Cleric abilities. But it was blessed by Moradin, the god of the Forge, who himself came down into their midst and gave his blessing upon this ceremony. The other sacrifice that came was on Talmud's side, as Talmud sacrificed one of his ancestral members, his actual ancestors that will appear, that will manifest whenever he rages. One of them being Brelne, his daughter, who died alone and afraid through means not yet known. And she had only manifested once or twice, but she stepped forward and her spirit was absorbed into the magical weapon. And before we move on to the following day, we'll have a little bit of a meta-narrative here, where the first thing I would like to know, Talmud, is as you have this new, not only magically enhanced, but physically the characteristics of the weapon have changed as much decoration have been, functional decorations and enchantments and runes have been placed on it. Yesha provided scrimshawing on the handle. Much gold and silver and gemstones went into it, as well as shards of a shattered altar to a Shardalon were added into it. What, if anything, what new name have you given to this weapon?
So first of all, I think Talmud is going back and forth in his mind, staring at this new weapon in different lighting, from different angles, from far away, from close up. And he's going back and forth between two different schools of thought. One is just the sheer amazement and awe at the fact that his cousin was able to do this, much less the fact that it's now in his hands. But the other school of thought is that Grandad's going to kill him for having changed anything with Gerta. And he's kind of back and forth constantly. But the one side is definitely starting to win over, especially as he's like walking around hefting the weight of it and kind of testing it, maybe even taking a couple of practice swings with it. He's definitely growing more and more okay and is certain that he's going to be able to handle Grandad. But as for the name, I think that finally comes to him after a lot of this contemplation, a lot of this carrying of the thing's weight and testing. And he's going to now call this weapon Gerta Brelne. It is named for not only Gerta herself, but also for the spirit of his daughter, who now inhabits the weapon.
As you spend time with Gerta Brelne, you, perhaps even quicker than might be expected, attune to this new legendary weapon. You know that this weapon can only be attuned to by a barbarian. This weapon is a dragon slayer. Well, first off, it's a +3 magical maul. It is a dragon slayer, meaning that it will do additional damage whenever you strike dragons or dragonkin. Through the cutscene, third-person cutscene, you've learned that it is also dragon soul bound to the ancient bronze dragon known to you as the Lady Vantage. This provides you with a very unique ability. Once per day, you can imbue a single hit with 8d10 of lightning damage. If the Lady Vantage dies, this feature is lost permanently. It is only active as long as she is alive. This is a sentient weapon. It is chaotic good. It has intelligence and charisma modifiers. You have that information. It has dark vision. It can speak, read, and understand Common and Dwarvish, as well as any other additional languages while you are attuned to it. And then there's some more information about the personality of it. And there's another feature that you know based on the personality that we'll just wait and see if that ever becomes an issue. But this, through the power of Thorgarn's forging and enchanting ability, the presence of Moradin, and the presence of your friends and allies, that is why Gerta Brelna exists as it does now. You are all, it's the next day. Thorgarn has been asleep for a very long time. Thorgarn collapsed from exhaustion after this. But we'll say another full day has passed without incident in Lonely Wood. While Thorgarn slept, you've all been able to... it's a rare time of, if you choose to just relax, help out around the house, if you wanted to explore the town at all or any of that kind of stuff, you were able to do so. But it's mostly like a very, the snow kicked up while Thorgarn was sleeping, so there was a period where it was dangerous to go outside from the extreme cold. But another day has passed in the Lonely Wood. Dawn, though the sun doesn't rise, dawn comes yet again. Dawnbringers, what would you like to do?
I would say probably late at night or early in the morning every day. Drown has taken to just going out to the lake. And is the lake completely frozen or just partially?
Only partially. They do their best to keep it, keep the ice broken up so they can continue to go out and fish and hunt.
So Drown once or twice a day will go out and basically just go for a swim and explore the lake, dive down deep, just spend maybe an hour or two out there before coming back.
Okay. Let's do this. We haven't done one of these in a while. One of my sliding scale percentile rolls. Let me get the base number. All right. So go ahead and roll a D100.
37.
27?
37.
Oh, 37. That makes a difference. All right. So go ahead and roll it again for the next day. Wow. I rolled the exact same number. Weird.
24.
24?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay. You find lots of fish. There's seals and a variety of fish, an incredibly large number of knucklehead trout. Every time while you've been swimming, anytime you're underwater, you occasionally heard this sort of very long, deep, and drawn out. Though, search as you might, you don't see anything.
Interesting. All right, well, he'll probably be a little more intrigued, but he's not going to, swim off to the other side of the lake on his own or anything. But
Okay.
yeah, so just leisure swimming.
Okay. Anybody else? Or would you all just have lazed around?
Well, Cantriel would have done like her meditation stuff in the evenings, but once she had her, her good 4 hours for her beauty meditations, she would actually sort of be standing sentinel at night, just kind of keeping an eye on things because she's not comfortable with the fact that Arviatrace sort of has a low jack on them.
So when you say you're keeping an eye on things, what are you doing to keep an eye on things?
Things like, standing out at the windows and just sort of like still inside, but looking out and just keeping an eye to see if there's any stirrings or odd movements or anything like that outside in the dark of night.
Go ahead and give me a perception check.
Really? Sure about
46.
that, Jake?
Yeah.
And what happened on Tuesday?
I rolled a 4.
B,
That's a 27.
do you have your auto volume turned on? Because every time you laugh,
No.
you get super quiet.
No,
Which is
maybe. Oh, let me check. That's probably a good thing. So I'm not blasting.
I was going to
out
say it's
headphones.
probably a good thing, but also we were robbed of your bright laughter.
It's a 27.
Okay.
And a 17.
As you are keeping watch, you find a window. I imagine up on since you're up in the attic at the one end of the house, there's a window that you're able to sort of block the light of the fire behind you so it's not reflecting on the glass. And you can see out, viewing the streets of Lonelywood and just kind of keeping an eye. You're able to kind of look up and see the sky as well. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, you see some shapes moving through the street. 2 or 3 at first, half a dozen. And then you see about 15 moving slowly through the streets. Wolves. 2 things about this pack of wolves that seem quite odd. 1, there are at least 3 rabbits that you can see, and 2 deer that are moving in amongst this pack of wolves, along with them, not being chased by them. When they move, they move. When they stop, so do the other animals.
Like that?
It's not normal behavior.
The other thing,
Cantriel's making note of that one.
the other thing you notice that's odd is as this pack of wolves is moving through, the pack leader is the first one that you saw. And partway of the pack moving through, the pack leader stopped, and all of the other wolves, the 2 deer and the 3 rabbits, they all continued on. When they're all past, the pack leader turns in place, stops, and looks up at the house, seeming to look right at you. It stares for a good long minute, and then it turns abruptly and takes off after the pack.
Ooh. Noted.
They are moving through the town from the south and are moving north towards where the Lonelywood is, the actual wooded area.
Okay.
The rest of the night passes uneventfully. Fig, would you be doing anything during this downtime day?
Fig is learning how to dog sled. It's a lot harder than he thought at first. Staying on and being kind of bracing himself against the sled. But soon, maybe by the end of the day, he's like ripping around town, like doing laps around it. I imagine he sees, maybe he even gets up to where Drought is swimming, and you just see him just kind of wave as he just whips on by.
Yeah, because you have so much free time, I'm not going to make you do any kind of rolls or anything. You just persist at it. There's quite a few times where, at the beginning of the day, where we see Fig being more yanked by a dog sled than riding it, and then going for a tumble in the snow, and then having to chase down the dogs in the sled, and eventually, by the end of the day, absolutely, Fig is not necessarily expertly, but at least decently maintaining the control of the sleds and the dogs and able to successfully drive these vehicles and animals. Talmud, anything in particular you'd be doing?
Again, he spends a large portion of his time kind of getting to know the new Gerta, how it feels, how the weight swings around. Just even the slightest change, I would imagine, would cause a lot of hiccup in a trained warrior's approach to fighting with any given weapon. So he's kind of growing accustomed to how this is going to feel whenever he actually has to count and rely on it in battle. But I think by the end of the day, he makes his way over to where Fig is like returning on one of these, like maybe around the lake or what have you, these kind of circuits that he's been making. And as Fig kind of pulls up, Talmud's going to call out to Fig, "Well, it was almost as fast as Hermes."
As Fig pulls up, you see that he steps off. You can see that he kind of looks down, saying that name. He kind of pauses for a moment. "I hope that he is okay."
I'm certain that wherever he is, he's running circles around whoever has him. Literally.
He does like to run. I hope that he has lots of space where he is.
I'm sure that he's fine. We'll find him. We'll find all of them soon enough, I hope. But you're getting better. You actually stayed in the sled the whole time. It was much better than earlier this morning.
Would you like to try?
Me? How close do they get to the water?
It is up to you. You have to steer them. It is quite simple.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay.
All right, sure.
So Fig will, yeah.
He'll climb on.
Yeah, Fig will get you all steady, kind of give you the rundown of like how to like pull and the, like maybe some of the commands that he's given them. And then with the ya, you're off.
Talmud,
Make me roll.
I am going to need you to make a animal handling check at disadvantage.
Perfect. I was going to ask if I could do it at disadvantage.
The disadvantage is 100% because Fig just kind of gave him a good old mush.
No, it's because of Talmud. That's well, Animal handling. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's a 13 total, so not too bad.
What was it?
A 13.
This is rough. You're being dragged. By the time you come back, the dogs follow pretty much the same loop that they've pretty much memorized by rote from Fig's running around. Fig, you see, you're perhaps a little worried at first because you see the dogs and the sled coming, but you don't see Talmud. But as it comes to a stop, what you see is there is a very large mound of snow directly behind the sled, and you can just see two dwarven hands gripping the bottom of the sled rail as all of that snow has been kicking up in Talmud's face.
A little wetter than I thought it would be. He's like trying to dig himself out.
Hear this sound as Fig goes up and he's going to offer you a hand to help you. It's just ha 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 ha, and Fig is laughing.
Yeah, I imagine it somewhat mimics Cantriel's laugh, especially because it's directed at Talmud.
Yeah, it's very high pitched. It's oddly high pitched for Fig. And he offers his hand out to help you up.
Talmud will absolutely take it and help. You're learning bad habits. He kind of like brushes himself off.
Yeah, at that point, you're hearing Cantriel's laughter in the background. Like, the continuation once Fig is done, hers just keeps kind of going in the distance.
She still saw it, even though she's like half a mile away through the woods.
Of course she did! You know her perception.
Thorgarn, you awaken feeling very well rested to the sounds of, you're alone in the attic. The first thing you hear is, of course, the crackling of the wood from the fireplace. But the next thing you hear is just the sounds of laughter of Cantriel and Talmud. This weird mechanical sound that you're pretty sure is Fig, and kind of sounds like a laugh. You hear all of that coming from outside as your friends seem to just be enjoying the peace of the day. What are you going to do as you start your day after almost a full day of being out of it?
So first, he's just going to unabashedly drink in the merriment. Our journey has really been long and, wrought with a whole bunch of peril. That whole tower nonsense was not fun in any real way, shape, or form. So to have these kind of moments to really just let some of that out, it's completely worth it. But once that moment breaks, he's gonna get up, and he's gonna try to one by one seek out the his fellow Dawnbringers and just offer a quick thank you for your part in making Gerta what it is. I think Talmud's going to be pleased, but there's definitely a bit of weight that's been lifted from Thorgarn through all of this, and he isn't looking over his shoulder as much, hasn't really talked to Father Greffin like he usually does, but he will definitely spend some time in prayer and eventually go to Talmud himself and say, well, What do you think, cousin?
Thorgarn, first of all, I had no idea that a dwarf could sleep that long. No, this is a work of art, cousin. Truly, it is. I don't really know what to say that would feel adequate. I've treasured this weapon for a long time, ever since it was trusted to me, and
You
I
approved
will
all
cherish
of
it for a
things.
long time after.
You approved all the things I was going to do. Are you saying you don't like it?
No, not at all. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. I am. Thank you.
I'm immensely pleased. I was. You did see Moradin show up there at the end, right? That wasn't just me.
You know, I did see him, and I wasn't sure if it was just me either, so I wasn't going to say anything. But I'm glad that you brought it up, because I was going to ask about that. Did you somehow manage to?
I was, as many dwarven forgers do, you work the prayer into the song. I know you don't spend a whole lot of time at the forge. You've gone in other directions, which is fine. So it's work and prayer at the same time. So perhaps he heard, perhaps there's more there that is a story that I haven't yet learned. But the last time Moradin showed up, only Griffith and I could see him. So I was happy that the rest of you could, or hope the rest of you saw him this time. But I was definitely a shock.
To say the least. But it's it really is incredible work. You should be proud of yourself.
As ridiculous as this is, as I've forged a new Gerta, I think was a forging at work on me at the same time. I feel reinvigorated in our purpose. We have much still to accomplish before we retire, and I think there's at least 2 dragons that are not going to be happy when they meet. And he just kind of reaches out and puts his hand on the maul.
I certainly think that this will come in very, very handy whenever we have to fight that beast. But the rest of you feeling well and all of this, that's just because you slept so long and you haven't had anything to drink. Come on. He kind of like throws his hand like around the Thorgarn's shoulder and like directs him to wherever they can get true dwarven wake-up juice.
Which, of course, you would recall the very first place you went in the Lonely Wood was the Lucky Liar. It's just up the road a bit, and of course it's open. You're absolutely able to go in there and partake of breakfast, including breakfast ales. The owner and bartender here is, you remember, is the dark-haired woman, Danae, who happily serves you all. Is anybody else going to join the dwarves for breakfast at the Lucky Liar, or are you up to other things?
Brown will probably end up there after he punches his way up through the ice and comes out of the lake.
Yeah, Fig will come.
Yeah, same. Cantriel would follow along. Probably going with Fig, quite frankly.
All right. So you all, it's not nearly as populated in here as it was the night of your arrival, because it is a morning. Already, as Drown, you would have noted while you were out swimming, you probably got yelled at a couple times by the fishermen. You're disturbing the fish. But many of the boats are out and people are out
Drown
fishing.
will actually spend a little bit of time just chasing down and getting a knucklehead and dragging it up into the boat and just say, there, and swim away.
A Goliath handing them a knucklehead is sufficient enough to placate them. Their angry roars. Also, many of the folk headed out into the woods to continue with the logging operation. You have a decent breakfast laid out before you, though in truth, while it is good food, it's hardly a competition with what Nimsy Huddle was able to prepare in her home. But still substantial fare. As you are, I'll say enough time has passed that you've tucked in quite well. The dwarves are a good 2 or 3, if not more, mugs of ale in, and anybody else that's drinking. When Cantriel, you hear something outside in the street. It just seems to carry in from the door. It's out of the ordinary because you hear the sound of somebody driving a dog sled and you hear the barking of the dogs. But what you hear also is a panicked voice yelling for the townspeaker. From outside, you hear this. Townspeaker! Townspeaker! Get the townspeaker! Get Nimsy Huddle! We're coming in! And then, we're coming in! As they pass rapidly by the Lucky Liar. A few of the people inside are looking around curiously and have started to get up to look outside. What in the world was that? What are you doing?
Cantriel just sort of like sits up startled, and you actually see Verity he tucks his head out from underneath her cloak and like does like this quick look around thing, like a startled cat almost, and then tucks himself deeply back in under my cloak. I think they're singing our song. We might need to go out and see what's up.
Huh? What?
Calling for help, trouble, someone needs us. Kind of our thing.
No.
Yeah.
But
I know, it's been lovely.
He starts stacking up. Starts stacking up whatever they're eating.
Think about
I can't eat it now.
Okay, once you finish your to-go.
Taste after a fight.
She's looking at Talmud. She's like, knowing where he tucks it half the time, I don't know if there's gonna be much taste of it left.
I meant coming back here and getting warm food after. Not
okay. Well, I'm looking at him getting his little, picnic basket.
Well,
I'm going to finish it before we get. There's going to be so much talking.
Okay, fine. Fine.
There's going to be so much talking.
Fig slowly goes towards Talmud and opens up his hat for Talmud to put all the food in.
Did we prepay for this food? If not, Thorgarn will make sure that the bill is covered.
Sure, no problem. With everything plus the ale and everything, it's just a handful of gold pieces. We'll say it's about 3 gold pieces to cover everything. So you all head out to see what's going on. The first thing you notice when you step outside is you see the tracks of the dog sled and you see blood. There's a trail of blood extending from the north in the tracks of this dog sled. And you see where it's gone around the corner down the street. If they were calling out the townspeaker's name, then they were heading to her house. You follow the bloody trail and the tracks, and you find that there is the dog sled outside. You see in the snow where there was somebody, whoever unloading from the dog sled, and you see more blood concentrated. And you can hear a commotion coming from inside the house. As you clamber up the steps and enter, the door, of course, opens up into the spacious kitchen of the Huddle home. But it is not a grand breakfast that is laid out. There is a human male laying on top of the table. There are 2 other humans standing on either side of him, holding him down, as Nimsy is standing on one of the benches by the table and examining one of the man's legs, which appears to have been mostly torn off.
Cantriel would go in right away and start helping her, quite frankly.
She's already she's gotten some of the clothing pulled away, and she's just looking at the other 2. Just make sure that you hold them down firm. This is going to hurt.
Brown comes in, places his hand on his chest, and just leans slightly.
The 2 other men just kind of look up. They do a double take when they see you, and then recognition after a moment. You may or may not recognize these as men that you saw in the tavern the first night you arrived. But with your steady hand, he is unable to move very much, even if he wanted to. Cantriel, as you
would just she'd be like humming, quite frankly, trying to distract him.
As you move in there, Nimsy just kind of looks over at you and says, "This is bad. He's going to lose that." And looking down, you can see there's a large chunk of his leg of meat and muscle and flesh that's just been torn away, and you can see the telltale markings of some kind of bite. And you can see that the bone, because you can actually see the bone, it's shattered. And she says, "We're gonna have to take the leg.
It's too far gone. I can clean up the aftermath, but we need to get it off."
So,
is there anything that can be done with magical healing, or is it even beyond that?
You can certainly try. This is very badly ripped apart. So yeah, you can definitely try.
I mean, I've got lay on hands. I've got medicine. I'm willing to give it a shot.
Cantriel will pat you on the back. She's not even going to say anything. She'll just make eye contact with you and gives you inspiration.
Much appreciated.
Talmud is going to step outside and start sharpening Ghost Cleaver. Just in case.
All right, so Fig, what are you doing while all of this is happening?
I think Fig is watching at like a safe distance. He's not really a healer. He doesn't understand how to put humans together as much as he knows how to put mechanical things together. So, but he's still interested. That keen mind of his still wants to learn and observe. So he's going to do so from a respectable distance, though, not to get in anyone's way.
All right, Thorgarn, what exactly are you going to attempt to do?
So, I've got lay on hands, which can do a variety of features beyond just, beyond just the actual healing. So, I know it's not a disease or a poison, but I don't know if it, could do any more in this matter. But I'm willing to, splint things up, stitch things together, and then see if the magic will actually take hold and finish the rest.
I will allow you to attempt to dump some lay on hands, some of your lay on hands pool in there, but you will need to make a medicine check as part of this.
Sure. I'm going to use a domain die and re-roll that one. That is significantly better. That is a dirty 20.
So you begin to dump in some lay on hands power, sort of touching on either side of where this wound is. You can feel him tensing, and Drown, you can feel him even pushing against your forceful hand, holding him in place. And with the initial 5, we'll say it costs the initial 5 points of your lay on hands, you hear a cracking sound as you watch as the bone begins to knit together. And if it wasn't for the some sort of tool with a wooden handle that they shoved in this guy's mouth, you would have heard a full-on scream from him. Nimsy just looks at you with a concerned look, Thorgarn. Uncertain. She doesn't say anything, but she's uncertain of what you're doing. You've managed to knit the bone together, but he still has a large chunk of flesh that's missing from his leg and is continuing to bleed profusely.
Wow, I can keep doing lay on hands. I've got 30 more points to spend.
Fig. Cantriel would call him. Fig, do you still have the, knock him out, good night spell up your sleeve? Might be worth it.
Fig nods, and he's going to walk up, and he takes some of this, like, it almost looks like dust or sand, but it's metallic. It shines, it glimmers, and he's just going to spread it over the man's face and cast sleep on him.
Anybody has hands on this man, you feel as his body relaxes a bit, and he's no longer struggling. Thorgarn, you can make another attempt. It's going to cost you 10 points of lay on hands, and you need to make a medicine check, and that number may change based on the results of your check.
Another domain die, please. 18.
You watch as you're getting a unique look at human anatomy, as veins and vessels begin to knit themselves together. Some of them do not. Some of them, they just shrivel and the bleeding stops. There's nothing for them to reconnect to. The pain is intense enough that the man wakes up from the sleep. It does still take you the 10 points of lay on hands. You hit the DC exactly. The bleeding is stopped for the most part, but he still has this large open chunk of wound with a lot of exposed muscle tissue, and the bone is still visible. Do you want to keep trying?
I got 20 more points of lay on hands that I can do, so I'm all in.
All right, you can make a third medicine check. The DC is higher.
Oh,
It's been going up each time.
Cantriel, got any thoughtful words here?
She already gave you inspiration.
And I used it on the first roll.
Oh,
You get him to the point and where I can take over and start getting things to knit together on the more outer portions, and I think we're going to get it. And she'll give you some more inspiration.
Okay.
It's a D8, don't forget.
Yep. That's yet another domain die. Sorry, guys.
Why are you sorry? Hello. There's many up above my head right now.
We have more than we can use. They keep giving us more.
Yeah, I
This
know.
is why
but-
we has them. We has for this.
All right, so that is another dirty 20.
you watch as you dump the last of your lay on hands into healing this man. You once again exactly hit the DC. You watch as muscle tissue and skin begins to form and mend itself. Some of the muscle tissue does form over the bone, but you watch as the skin begins to close in over top. You have managed to knit the bone, the broken bone, stop the bleeding, and begin the healing process. For the most part, expedite it. But this, short of any sort of regeneration magic, this man has a large chunk of, he's basically missing his calf entirely. He's going to be weakened, but he didn't lose his leg. At which point I imagine Nimsy just kind of looks over her glasses at you and then kind of looks through them, gets in really close and is just lightly touching around it. You feel the man just sort of it doesn't hurt anywhere near as bad as it did. Then she looks over at you, Thorgarn. Right, that is some powerful magic. I was ready. And she doesn't finish her sentence, but you kind of look down at her side and you see that she's holding a bone saw in her hand. And she just says, well, and she turns and quickly moves away with the bone saw, keeping it out of sight of the man. Right, well, let's get him over here into the other room where he can be more comfortable. And you two, I'm going to need to know what happened. And it takes a few moments, and I imagine less difficult with Drown's assistance to move this man into the sitting room and put him in one of the comfortable chairs with his leg propped up. And the pain he's in is real, but nowhere near what it would have been. And it seems part of it is he's still kind of in shock and is expecting there to be a lot more pain than there should be. And you catch a sign that he's kind of normalizing a bit as he just kind of finally takes a look at what's left of his lower leg. Right. Well, let's hope that feckin' wolf is full for a while.
I'm very sorry. I wish I could have done better.
God, nothing for you to apologize about. I stuck up my leg. And you can see he's just exhausted. Nimsy motions to all of you and to the other two. Roland, Peter, come. And she very quickly, in the time you were moving this man to the living room, she had has already removed the linens that were on the table, the blood-soaked linens, all this stuff. So it's just bare table at this point. And she sets out several cups and begins pouring hot water and tea for everyone. Right. You're going to need to tell us what happened. Right. Well, we were on the trails, following through, looking for the new trees that we had already marked to begin pulling them down. And we've been keeping an eye out. We hadn't seen the wolf, or hadn't seen the moose in a few days. But we saw lots of tracks, mostly wolf. So we've been keeping our eyes out. We had just started on the first tree when we saw the moose. It came in closer than we've ever seen it before. But it just stood there, staring at us. That's when I noticed it seemed to look past us. And it made a motion with its head. I swear, by the gods, it nodded as if given a signal. And just as we turned around, the wolves attacked. They got Dale. Damn near ripped his leg off, as you saw. And then they left. But they circled partway around us, blocking all further entrance into the wood. The only way we had was to get on the sled and head back here. And I swear the wolves left the path open for us. Maybe we're imagining things in the moment, but I don't think so. There's something up with the animals in the lonely wood.
So this isn't normal then?
This is the second or third time we have heard of the moose.
Yes, it's become a bit of a legend. That, to be perfectly honest, I thought most of the loggers were getting bored out there and making excuses for why they weren't able to get as much pulled in, weren't meeting their quotas. It's been...
If anyone comes to you with an excuse of a moose attacking them, I don't think they could make that up.
And yet it sounds like something. Nobody had actually been attacked by it. In the past, they've all been run off. And yeah, there's wolves and other creatures in the woods, but...
Do they play together is my question.
Do they
The
play
wolves
together?
And the deer and the rabbits, the bunny rabbits. Yes, do they all sort of frolic around in the middle of the night?
It's the lonely wood, and great white moose aside, it's not a fairy tale.
Well, something's going on then, because the other night I saw a pack of wolves with some interesting creatures of the deer and the bunny rabbit variety palling around with them. And one even looked directly back at me. One of the wolves. Like it knew it was being watched.
The two men just look at Nimsy, and you kind of looking between the two of you. She looks over at them for a moment, then looks back at you, Cantriel. These loggers, they've been known to make up stranger tales to get back to the Lucky Liar earlier than later, but
I don't
I
make
somehow
up stories,
doubt.
I use them.
I don't believe you're telling a tall tale.
Mm-mm. I don't have time for them.
Right. Well, I suppose you know what I'm going to ask you then. But, truth be
Tom
told,
just nods like this is what he's been waiting for.
I don't want you to feel taken advantage of, and truth be told, I'd been meaning to do this earlier anyway. But then your friend here was exhausted from your activities the other night, and I thought it best to wait, but... Well, this'll just seal the deal, I guess. We've grown quite fond of having you around here in the Lonely Wood. And it sounds like you're going to be in Icewind Dale for a while, as you're figuring things out and finding your place. And from the sounds of it, you've got some missing friends you need to locate as well, and possibility of a dragon.
Or two.
And it sounds like you've not had a place to call home for quite some time.
Huh. Well, that's been the story of my life. Almost literally, that's aside from the point.
Well,
I'm sure we'll be... She looks around to the others, more than ready to take a look into what could be going on here.
here. She gets up and she walks across the room and she reaches up next to the door where there's a few rings of keys, but there's one ring of keys that has just about 3 or 4 keys on it. She grabs it, she brings it over, and she sets it on the table in front of all of you. Up the street, you've no doubt seen the, well, that's a bit run down, but you've seen the abandoned inn. Yeah? Next to the
close.
general store.
Right. Boarded up and such?
Drown looks slightly confused, like maybe he didn't notice the...
Yeah.
abandoned inn, but
You didn't
then
go
just
that
sort of
way,
shrugs.
and you've somehow managed to not go that way at all. So you have no idea what she's talking about. She just slides the keys towards you.
It is a building. I have seen
Yes.
several.
Well, it used to be an inn in town until the owner, well, he decided it was no longer his place to be here anymore. And it sat boarded up for quite some time. The locals have taken to calling it ramshackle, but you can call it whatever you want. But I hope that you'll call it home. If only for a short while, but for as long as you want it. And she just slides the keys over to you.
Cantriel will pick them up and sort of just hold them in the palm of her hand with an arched brow, and then look to the others around her. Well, we might just have a place to hang our hats for a little bit.
You indeed have been given ownership of the building known as Ramshackle.
Oh my god. Cantriel looks at Fig like, maybe even some decorating.
Homeowners.
So I would hope sooner than later. You might check out what's going on in the wood, but if you need to outfit yourself or prepare yourself in any way, of course I understand. And we'll help out in any way we can with helping you get settled in your new home.
I believe we are prepared to hunt a moose now.
She just sort of points to John. He has spoken.
The one logger that was sort of relaying the story, Peter, he said he kind of looks over his shoulder in the other room, at at the now sleeping, recovering fellow. I don't want to be morbid, but if you go now, you can follow the trail of blood to find out exactly where we last saw the moose and the wolves. And Initiative Coffee Company, I did award them a domain die because I saw your raid of 1. A raid of 1 is still a raid.
Yay!
So, Dawnbringers, to your new home or to the woods?
Cantriel hands the keys over to Fig.
Can we just look? Fig turns to Drown. Can we just look quickly?
Certainly.
I would like to be able to plan on the road.
That sounds agreeable.
Works for me.
I'm gonna give Talmud time to get some extra provisions.
So I'm not chopping off his leg then.
That means booze,
No.
doesn't it?
No, I meant, more breakfast.
Well, I mean, there's no reason that I have to choose between the two.
Booze is also breakfast.
He's learning, Thorgarn, you see?
Oh, Fig's got a hat of holding full of handfuls of hotcakes.
And that's not a euphemism.
Oh.
So you're going to head over to Ramshackle to at least take a look?
Apparently.
So we cut to the Dawnbringers as we hear a key in a door, and then we see the door as it hits the side, and we see the bright light coming in with the Dawnbringers all crowding around the door looking in. Fig first in the doorway. As the door opens up, you see a very spacious, great room, as this was an inn. It is a 2-story building, slightly smaller than Nimsy Huddle's home. This great room, unfortunately, appears to be quite full of firewood, logging supplies, partially processed logs. It looks like they've been using this building as a storage place. You can still move around in it a bit. It mostly is freezing cold in here, as it's been a long time since a fire has been lit in any of the hearths. There's stairs that lead up to the second floor. There's a kitchen. There's several bedrooms up on the second floor. Before next session, I will make sure you have a map of your new home in Lonelywood.
I'm kind of really digging this. We has a home.
He gets to play Animal Crossing again.
I don't have over 1,000 hours on that game. I very much do. There's
So it's a couple minutes early, but this feels like a great place to take our break. My bladder's also saying it's a great place to take a break. So we, first of all, I want to thank everybody who has been hanging out with us so far. Just a reminder, I'll drop the link again in the Discord, in the chat for the Discord. There is a Dawnbringers room over on our Discord. If you would like to drop ideas, actually, it doesn't have to be even in the Dawnbringers room. It could be in any of the rooms. We're looking for non-disruptive ideas of ways that we can use the channel points, the XP, across all of our streams, since we do mostly D&D here and role-playing games. Ways that those XP can be used. There's no bad ideas, but there's a lot of ideas that will never get used, I'm sure. But we will gladly accept your ideas, and if we end up using them, we'll give you credit. Also, before we go to the break, actually, we neglected to do it at the beginning. Jeremy has an announcement, and we'll do it again at the end as well. But I'm going to throw it over to Jeremy for an announcement that affects the mini terrain domain schedule. What do you got, Jeremy?
Yes. Hello, everybody. So yeah, starting next Wednesday, every other week for a limited engagement. No, a mini campaign. I think there's going to be 8 total sessions, including the session 0 that is happening next week. I'm going to be running a campaign here on the MTD Twitch channel, and I'm very excited for it. It's going to take place in a homebrew world of mine named Aroth. It is a tidally locked world that orbits a trinary star system. So one side is perpetually in daylight and is akin to Dune, Dark Sun, things like that. And the dark side is constantly in darkness and is going to have a very heavy Nordic kind of flavor to it. And things are inexplicably connected on the two sides of this world. And I'm very, very excited. The cast of players that I managed to get for this game are fantastic. One of which is him. So I'm very excited that they're going to be playing in that game, as well as Karen Davies and Austin Anderson, who just finished playing in a campaign of mine with Jake, and Matt Click, and then Jackson Johnson. So it's a fantastic group of players, and I'm very, very excited to get to it. So yeah,
I'm super excited as well. Jeremy and I have been talking since last year about having him run something on the channel. I think Jeremy is among many others that I know, but Jeremy has become he's already a fantastic storyteller, an amazing world builder and storyteller and DM. But it has also become quite a phenomenal producer as well. And I just thought, hey, we should expose some of you to those talents as well. So we're very excited to have Jeremy running Convergence for the next several weeks, every other Wednesday, right here on the channel. So we'll get that schedule updated, and you'll be able to check that out next Wednesday right here. Yeah, so stick around. We'll be back in just about 10 minutes to see what they can find in the woods. We'll be right back.
Dawnbringers assemble.
And we're back. I think it's just a reflex action now. When the transition happens, V just starts giggling. I don't know that I don't know that we've ever started a game of Harper's without coming right into it with laughter happening. And I'm not complaining. It's a great way to start a
Mark
game.
of a great group.
Jeremy said Avengers Assemble, and I found it funny.
I
Well,
did not. I said
He
Dawnbringers.
said Dawnbringers assemble.
Dawnbringers, you have assembled.
On your left.
You have you have found yourself. You decided to check out what was going on in the Lonely Wood. You find yourself at the edge of the woods. You followed the sled trail and the trail of blood. Would you have gone on foot, or would you have taken the sled dogs? It's not terribly far, less than a mile.
That we would have left the.
I think Fig would have probably insisted.
Even
Yeah,
if it
we're
was
gonna
like
bring
just to the other side of town, I think Fig probably would have insisted.
It's like that friend who gets the first car, and they are like taking their friends
It's a
everywhere,
2-minute
no
walk
matter
and you
how.
still take the car. Yeah.
My daughter's
That's how
still like
Fig
that.
is.
If you're going anywhere, can I drive? You don't have to
I love
drive
it.
all the time.
Yes.
Fig's like, yes. Mush, mush. Okay, so you have your dogs and your sled, and actually you guys had what, 6 dogs and 2 sleds, I believe. So you find yourself at the edge of the woods. Would you just go ahead and proceed right into the woods following the trail? All right.
I would imagine. I don't know if Cantriel, being part ranger, has survival, but I know that the dwarves do.
Partial survival.
So
Because
put heads together
Wait,
and
what is my? That's a good question. What is my preferred?
Thought your favorite terrain. I don't remember what it was.
I haven't used this in a while because
Yeah,
we've
that's
been forest. Hey, it's forest! It's finally something I can use.
Just say favorite terrain forest. Welcome to all the dungeon crawls. Oh, we're not in a dungeon. Where are we? You're in an oceanside town. Damn it!
I've never.
I'm sorry, this doesn't count. This is technically snow-covered lands.
Right? It's
Shut up, Jeremy. Let me have my moment.
and
Fuck
what's
you, man.
funny?
Snow-covered forests are still forests. Come on now.
What's funny is in all of Icewind Dale, this is the one small forest.
Oh my god.
This is literally the one
It's a
place.
little boop on the map.
It's just a little blip.
So
Let me live my dream of being in a forest, please.
it doesn't take you long before you are able to arrive at the place. And true to their word, you see some trees that have been marked. You see a tree that is partially sawn through. In fact, the large 2-handed saw is still embedded in the tree where they were working. Sawdust scattered all around. And you see where the struggle took place. You see that there is a large spray of blood, lots of wolf prints in the immediate area. So you find where the attack happened. From here, it's up to you to determine how you would like to proceed.
Search for moose tracks.
Gonna say, can we search for tracks?
Absolutely. Go ahead and give me a survival check.
Mm-hmm.
While they're doing that, I think Talmud is going to take Ted's advice. I think we're going to gather up the saw and try to put it on the sled, just so we have it whenever we go back.
That's a 16.
Drown also has a 16.
I have a 22.
Dying.
I got a 5 in survival and I rolled a 17. So
As you're investigating the area, the others, you start to think you found these moose tracks, and you realize a little too late they're deer tracks. There is a large number of animal tracks all throughout here. But it's Thorgarn who actually spots the moose tracks. And you see where the tracks lead to a spot that the moose seems to have just stood for a while. And then it goes back the way it came. And looking at where you find them, it matches up completely with the story that the loggers told. It's a good 20, 30 yards away from where they were working, with clear view of that site. And then you see where it headed off in another direction.
So did it look like it really just came out, stood there, and then walked away?
Basically, you see tracks that kind of come from one direction, stop, and then you see where it sort of shifted and it continued in a different direction. So it looks like it deliberately, like the tracks kind of come to a point where it deliberately stopped in that location. And then you see where the tracks head off to.
Is there, like, was that like out in the middle? There wasn't a tree around that it might have been pulling something off of.
I mean, there's trees everywhere. You want to investigate to see if it was doing something else?
The spot where it stopped. I want to see if I can try to, figure out, like, could it have stopped for another reason, or is the only logical explanation was that it stopped and was observing the people?
Okay, give me an investigation check. Or I'll allow you to use survival because you're still kind of looking at.
All right, excellent. That's actually a shot of.
Also, am I just fixated on the moose, or are we supposed to be looking for the wolf that ate that dude's leg? Like, keep me on track if I've gone off into the.
I don't know why we're investigating the moose. I honestly thought the wolves were the greater danger, but
the moose seem to be talking to the wolves, right?
It seemed to be communicating with them in some degree, and the story you got, there's lots of odd animal activity. You've heard about the moose more so than the wolves. That the moose has been harrowing loggers, according to them, for quite some time, chasing them off of sites. This is the first time a wolf attack has been involved. All right, what do you got there, Thorgarn?
The 19 on the survival roll.
You look around the area, you see no signs of moose droppings. You don't see in any of the nearby trees, you don't see any place where it looks like it would have been rubbing its antlers. There's not really anything edible in this particular area that would have stopped to feed. For all intents and purposes, it stopped facing the direction of where the loggers were. And then after an unknown period of time, it turned and walked in the other direction.
All right, Dawnbringers, this is rather bizarre, and I, truth be told, have spent far more time dealing with things that are not animals and not really super knowledgeable about magic. Totally willing to hear some theories. Any thoughts?
These animals do not seem normal or natural. The wolf knew it was being watched, looked back at Cantriel. The moose was talking to them. Something strange is happening here.
Hey, could I do an Arcana check?
On
Like that, or maybe just if there's like some sort of spell or something along those lines that kind of come to mind of animals becoming more sentient.
Sure.
Okay. Well, that's going to be a 22. Yeah.
Cantriel, didn't you say you saw like wolves and rabbits like going together?
Mm-hmm. Traveling together in a pack, except it wasn't just a pack of wolves.
And it was through town or by town?
Oh, it was straight through town. Main thoroughfare. Cantriel, as Thorgarn and the others are looking around, and you're just sort of also checking things out and thinking about this situation of these animals, you've traveled quite a bit and learned quite a bit even before your adventuring. And you've spent time with druids. You actually had a druid in your in the Dawnbringers before you became the Dawnbringers. And you know that there are usually among druids some rangers, but even some bards. There's the ability to awaken things that could be plants, trees, bushes, animals. You can use magic. It takes a lot of effort to do so. And it takes a very powerful magic user to be able to do this. But you can give normal plants, trees, and animals sentience.
She'd relay that information to everyone else, just sort of like, starting to put two and two together, realizing just how deliberate a lot of the actions of these animals now are, and it's not adding up to, typical woodland creatures she used to see. So clearly someone is using their magic abilities.
So
The question is why?
Do we have an idea how long these animals have been harassing the loggers?
Perhaps
if it is recent, whichever spellcaster is giving them sapience is probably still here somewhere.
The only time frame you've heard in the stories that you've heard is weeks.
perhaps this caster has kind of taken this place as their own and think of the townsfolk as invaders or encroachers on their land and are turning the wildlife against them.
My understanding is Lonelywood has been here much longer, but we should be prepared to face a powerful magic user. Be cautious.
I also think that if we could have a conversation first and do this without the killing, might go nicer.
Cantriel,
It is fine to try.
you said that you saw a group of these mismatched animals running around together through the town, but what were they doing?
Moving from the south to the north.
Didn't seem to be some purpose they had, or they didn't seem to be carrying out some kind of orders, or
Nothing that I could tell outside of the fact they were just, using the town as an egress. Egress, not an egret, by the way.
so
Egress is a female
I
egret.
think I think we're too far north for that. I think we should just follow the tracks and see where they lead.
That would be the most logical
Surely
thing
at
to
some
do.
point.
With the creatures and animals of that? Yes, of course.
They must lead back at some point to this spellcaster, I would think.
They'd have to be near it at some point.
Would Fig know anything about how this would come about, like making the animals sentient? Like, is there like like, is it permanent? Like, would he know that, or would they have to be in the area to like recast it?
You can make a history or arcana check to see if this is information that you've picked up.
Okay. I'll make arcana. 16.
You can't recall any information about this type of spells.
Okay.
Yeah, I see a couple of you mentioning it. I'm not doing anything with it right now, but if you're in your character sheet on D&D Beyond, up in near the upper right, you can click on the game log, and anytime anybody in this campaign rolls dice on the character sheet, you can see what was rolled. I think if I roll dice, it just shows you general dice rolls. It doesn't tell you what I was rolling. But I can tell what skill you're using. We can all see what skills and everything you're using. I want them to make it so that we can make it visible on stream. That would be cool. But anyway. So yeah, Fig, it's well outside of any readings that you've done. You don't recall coming across this particular type of magic. So are you going to follow the tracks? Is that what I heard?
Yep.
All right, so you gather up your sleds and your dogs, and you begin following the moose tracks through the forest. And it's a little slow going. It's kind of dense after a little bit. The area where you were looks to be an area where they were newly cutting. There wasn't a lot of activity of logging in this area. It's not long, though, after you get further north and into the woods, deeper, that you notice that other tracks are joining the moose tracks. And that's when you see the multiple wolf tracks that have joined up, and they all seem to be... There's a lot of the activity of the wolves kind of crossing to and fro across the moose's tracks. But it seems as if they were traveling with the moose. You continue traveling for total time, unless you would decide to break off at any point. You end up traveling for close to 2 hours through the woods following these tracks. There's times where the wolf tracks disappear, and then they come back. But ultimately, it seems to be a lot of animals traveling together.
Jake, there's an interesting thing about my whole, preferred terrain, whatnot, if we've been traveling for over an hour. While tracking creatures, you learn the exact number, size, and how long ago they passed through the area.
So, I'm sorry, say that again.
When tracking creatures, you learn the exact number, sizes, and how long ago they passed through the area.
Well, you're able to identify the, hold on a second. Deal with this.
Do you want me to put it into the chat?
Hold on one second. It's not working. Why is it not working? There we go. Sorry, I had a troll in the dungeon.
Oh, fun. Bye!
Oh, good. Good. You got him. I just
a
dropped
racist
that in the,
troll.
I just dropped that in the side chat. Glad you caught it.
Yep. I was getting rid of them right away. Yeah, anybody that has moderator abilities, you can block and report. Sorry about that, chat. But I just happened to glance at chat as the racist comments were happening, and
Oh, that takes priority.
oh, hold on a second. I'm gonna mod Gary real quick.
Yeah, do it.
Sorry for the distraction, folks, but this is important. Wow, there we go. Mod. There you go. All right, Gary, you've been modded. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think I hit the wrong button and I just hid their comment, so then it made it harder for me to ban them. Anyway, it looks like, thank you, Em. It looks like you got them banned. All right, sorry for that minor distraction. I normally, the mods, you guys are great at that, and I'm sure you would have caught it. I just happened to see it and got immediately angered. Because we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. I think that goes without saying. But that was a pure troll. Okay. You know, because of your favored terrain, you see the tracks, you know the size and activity and how long. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're able to identify that there's a pack of about 15 wolves. You pick out the 3 rabbits, the 2 deer, and the moose tracks. You also are able to determine that they passed through here within the last 4 or 5 hours. The timing lines up that basically they headed off this way immediately after they chased off the loggers. As you begin moving, continuing rather forward, Cantriel, you're the first person to notice this because you notice everything first. You begin to hear. I knew you were going to hate this, but it takes only a few moments, and you start to hear. Who are they? Where did they come from? Who are they? I've never seen them before. Newcomers. She's not gonna be happy.
Oh, this is so tempting to really Cantriel on this one.
And Cantriel, as you're looking around for the signs of this, being in your favored terrain, you're able to kind of pinpoint where these sounds are coming from. And everywhere you look, you see a bird in a tree. You see a squirrel. You see a rabbit. You're seeing wildlife that seems to be watching your passage. There's a few birds flitting through the trees, and as they're flitting, you catch snippets of bird song, but you also hear them whispering.
Is it just me, or is everyone else hearing this?
It takes a little bit for the others.
I hear nothing.
Does anybody have a passive perception of 12 or lower? Yours is lower, Drown. Yours is lower, Fig. The others are all 12 or higher? Lower? Okay, well, it's only you and maybe Thorgarn.
Like
11.
Believe it or not,
Yeah,
believe it or not, Talmud has a 14.
Holy crap!
All right.
So yeah, Thorgarn, you also, about the time you see Cantriel looking around the treetops, you start to hear it as well.
Talmud, not Thorgarn.
Or
Yes,
Talmud.
We're confused. It's
Sorry,
D&D
Dad. D and Dad mixing up his kids' names.
He's back. Yeah, she's just gonna do it. You know, I can hear you. And who's she?
Quiet.
Too late.
Quick, go tell her. The others are already going. No, we've got to tell her. And you hear this sort of as birds flit off into the distance, squirrels duck into their trees. As soon as you address them, the animals all dart away. They don't talk to you directly.
Well, she's gotten our calling card, whoever she is.
As you continue on your way, it's but a few moments before you see a clearing in the fortress, or forest, not fortress. You see a clearing in the forest, and you see this area where there are some pine trees that are they almost seem manicured. There's quite a few of them. And then you see 6 elevated white marble statues that are lined up. They follow this sort of curve, but they're in a line. And they appear to depict slender robed figures with elven features, all facing northward. The features of their faces have been worn away by weather, but you can still see the pointed ears identifying them as elves. You can see that there is a defined area of snow-covered rock that seems to have been carved away. There's some trees, and looks like there's some other structures on top that you can't quite see from here. And there is an opening that you can just see beyond into what looks like some sort of open-topped barrow. The animal tracks are quite cluttered around this area, moving to and fro inside this area. You can actually see from where you are, there is a stone door that appears to have no handles on it. What would you like to do?
Talmud is going to kind of, after the birds take off and the smaller animals run away, he's going to kind of watch them go for just a second. He's going to turn. He's going to say, "The rest of you, are you maybe thinking the same that I'm thinking? Where we ran into a creature that was built of all kinds of woodland creatures. It was part owl and part ram or something with horns. Could it be that all of them are referring to her? She's supposed to be some kind of entity out here, right?"
That is possible.
Why would it walk around as a moose? If it's
No, I don't
The moose is
think
a
the
pet.
moose is her. I think her is whoever made the moose.
You remember Vi, Talmud?
I do. The one with the vegetables that were so delicious.
Right, but remember she had a few tricks up her sleeve. Can turn
True.
into animals, speak with the animals, work with the animals. I'm wondering if we aren't dealing
So-
with someone of her persuasion, so to speak, or abilities rather. Possibly another druid, especially, and she kind of tilts her head to the statues of elves. You know, my kind are somewhat known to flock towards more woodlandy, druidic tendencies.
Cantriel, make me a history check.
Okay. That's a pretty decent one too. That's going to be a 24.
This feature, as you're talking to Talmud, you're sort of realizing that you've never seen one covered in snow like this, but this is very common and not common, but similar to what you know about elven tombs. For important elven figures to have as part of nature, to have a barrow like this or similar to this. Most notably, the elven statues seem to play into that. You can see an opening into this sort of circular depression, though you can't quite from out here see what is in there. It's next to this opening that there is also a door to a different area.
She probably would be like brushing off one of the statues and then kind of go, huh. This might be sacred ground. or a burial ground at least. And then just sort of point out all the features as well.
Tom was going to look at the depression and kind of like his shoulders kind of slump. More tombs.
Yes, but this time, you know not to just right away, check it out first. Oh, wait. She'll call up Norman. He can do it.
Okay. What's old Storm and Norman gonna do?
Go over to the door and see if it, there's anything that's gonna, plummet or hurt or maim. Put pressure on it.
So as you summon forth Norman, your invisible servant, Norman the Doorman.
Oh, question. With the snow, do we get to see his footprints?
You absolutely see little trenches begin to form in the snow as you form him. There's this area of snow in front of you that just goes, and then it begins to trudge over to where the door is, and it seems to linger there for a moment. Nothing happens. The door doesn't open. But you do see so as Norman would be looking at this door, which is facing to the west, that would mean immediately to Norman's right or directly in front of you is this opening into this circular area. You see two white rabbits poke their head around the corner, and you hear, "Oh my God, they're here!" And they duck back.
Yes, we're here. Could you maybe just come out and talk to us first instead of, whispering and then skittering away? Like she's like crouched down and kind of like you would to like a reluctant cat, just start talking to them, trying to coax them.
Go ahead and give me a persuasion check.
I can be very persuasive. That's a 14.
You see these two rabbits poke their heads back out again. And they tentatively, one of them hops forward. And the other one immediately goes, "No, don't. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. They seem nice. She's not going to like it. She isn't here. She's right over. Shh." And they start talking.
Cantriel, like, she looks over to Fig and just whispers, "Give me one of those hotcakes, please."
Yeah, Fig reaches into his hat and brings out, I imagine it's still kind of like steaming a little bit.
It breaks off like a little
The
piece
food
and just
hat.
like type of thing.
Talmud follows it. Wait, no.
Like a damn dog.
Yeah.
The rabbits come forward towards you where you're crouching with a hot cake. That sounds like it should be bad, but it's not. Anyway, you're offering breakfast food to some awakened bunnies.
Yay! Yeah, like I'd crumble it and kind of like, sprinkle it in front and still have some in like the palm of my hand at their level.
They tentatively at first, but then quickly start nibbling at it. This is so much better than anything that we usually eat.
Well, there's a couple more if you're hungry. Talmud.
Always hungry. High metabolism.
Well, that makes sense, yes. Tell you what, if you don't mind asking a few questions for us, and she's going to look at Talmud as she says this, there are a few more where those came from that we'd be happy to share with you. And then
Talmud's
she looks at
looking
me like,
injured.
"Right?"
Yeah, but
Talmud, you know we can get more.
By this point, the bunnies are just tucking into these hotcakes, and they've given up any signs of being timid, and they are just standing there eating away at these.
Can I try and scritch one on its head, please?
Sure.
Yay!
All right, so paint the picture. Are these like, fluffy white Arctic hair, or, calicos? Like
Do we have a lop ear situation? What's going on here?
Oh my god, make them lop ears.
These
Then I
are
can, like,
these
scratch
are
it and the ears go
downy.
flop, flop.
They're big old fluffy white Arctic hairs. And you get as you're scratching at it, they're so focused on these hot cakes. As you're scratching at it, the ear kind of does a twitch a couple times, and then the back leg seems to almost involuntarily come up, almost like it's trying to push your hand away, but it just sort of rests on your hand after a moment. And they're just, so what did you want to ask?
Well, first of all, who is she? Because I'd rather not have to keep calling her she.
We're not allowed to speak her name.
Not allowed, or you can't.
But she's the one that woke us up.
Okay, could you describe her maybe? Instead of, if you can't give her name, could we at least know what she looks like to keep an eye out?
Or you could tell her we would like to speak with her. There is no reason we need be enemies.
I don't think she's going to want to talk to you. But
well, why not?
None of you look like her. Except you look closest to her. And she's looking at you, Cantriel. She wears the skin of the wolves as a warning.
To whom? The wolves or us?
To all of us.
Great.
She wears the antlers of the deer. She carries the feet of some of my brothers and sisters.
Oh, this one sounds like a real gem.
Talbot have a rabbit's foot?
Man, do I wish I did.
Why do you want to talk to her?
Because we want to find out why people are getting hurt in the wood.
Because they don't belong. That's what she says. The wood belongs to her and the animals.
Since when? This seems to be something more recently developed, which is part of the concern.
I don't know how long. I was only able to talk recently.
She cast magic on you, and then you understood and could speak.
I don't know. I don't remember before I knew.
I am confident saying that is what happened. It is important that we speak with her. We would not like to have to be her enemy, but things cannot continue as they are.
You hear
Perhaps we can find a way that will benefit both sides.
You hear a sound from inside the circular area, about 15 feet past you, where the rabbits came from, and it has this sort of echoey sound from whatever this space is beyond this doorway. But it sounds like sticks or bones or antlers being clattered together. Instantly, the rabbits thump their feet on the ground, kick up snow, and dart back into the circular area with just a quick, "Sody, she's here!"
Excellent.
From inside this circular area, with a sort of echoey quality to the voice from the acoustics of this inner space, it simultaneously sort of echoes but falls flat from the snow as you hear, "You just won't take a hint, will you?"
Have you given us hints? We are newcomers here. If you have, you should try to be less subtle.
I would have thought the wolves tearing that man's leg off would have been enough.
Wolves are of no concern to us. Will you speak?
I don't know you. I don't recognize your voice. I don't know who you are. I don't know the metal one either. But I know Cantriel,
Pardon?
and I know Talmud.
Brown just kind of nods knowingly after she specifically pointed out two of us that we didn't know, that she didn't know.
And I know of Thorgarn. As this figure, clad in wolves' pelts, wearing deer antlers with, you see bone and antlers hanging off of her form. You see she has some sort of white paint across her eyes. Her graying hair hangs past her shoulders, and though her skin looks weathered and her clothing is far from anything familiar, Cantriel and Talmud, you know those eyes. As Vi steps into the opening. Talmud, have you been eating your vegetables?
No,
Brown
he
looks
hasn't.
confused.
I mean,
It's
course
Talmud.
not.
No.
I've tried, but none of them do what those vegetables that you gave me did. None of them.
That's what happens when you don't have a druid with you. I suppose you want to know what's going on. Come. Come with me. I'll tell you what's happening. She motions for you all to follow her into this area.
Assuming you know her.
Vi.
What,
Our
this
Vi.
is- This is Vi.
Hey,
Well, then do lead on. Let's have this conversation.
Did you just say doodly on?
I said no,
Do-
then lead on.
You lead.
I just suddenly heard a Ned Flanders thing. I was like, what the heck is doodly on?
Doodly on!
Well then, doodly. Sorry. I couldn't process that.
Doodly on.
Right diddly-o.
it's a diddly erdler.
Well, you know,
Breaking my own immersion.
do lead on. Let's have this conversation.
You then follow. You see that this, when you walk into this area, you see that the circle itself is about 50 feet in diameter. Rising from the center of this the circular depression, you actually see a very tall, triangular crystal gnomon, a device that is basically used in the middle of sundials. It's thick near the base and narrows up to a sharp point at the top. The snow around the gnomon has completely melted away, revealing that there is a circle of symbols carved into the stone around it. You see on the stone in the symbols that there are a total of 8 symbols depicting the various phases of the moon, suggesting that this is actually not a sundial, but a moon dial. You see Vi walking towards, on the sort of the northwest edge of this depression, there's a large hole that's been broken through the stone and the side of the hill. She walks towards that and kind of steps in, turns, and says, "Come in here, out of the cold."
Drown will bring up the rear, since several people seem to know this person.
As you follow through the broken portion of the hill, you see that there is rubble from, it looks like this was broken inward. Inside this opening of the hill, it actually, you can see that you drop down, it slopes down a little bit, so you have about 10-15 feet overhead of clearance. You see 3 more elven statues in here. Looking to the southeast, you can see where it follows the curve of the wall, and you see a set of stairs leading up to a door that lines up with, it's probably the door that you passed coming in here that you sent Norman to investigate. There's a couple other pathways, but Vi is leading you to the northwest to a narrow passageway up a set of stairs to a door that opens as she approaches it, leading into a circular chamber that is about 30 feet in diameter. This chamber looks as though she's been living here. You see a bed and some shelving. You see various components, drying herbs and boughs of trees. You see several animal bones. There is, of course, being that this is an elven tomb, there is an large sarcophagus in the dead center of this room. There are candles that burn around this sarcophagus. Does everybody follow her into this room?
Mm-hmm.
She
And
walks.
Talmud's gonna kind of just take a peek, see if maybe the tomb has been pilfered already. Just for curiosity.
Everything that you see in here looks like it was brought in by Vi, and the sarcophagus itself is closed. She walks over to a chair that's made of woven together branches of trees. In fact, as you look around, some of the furniture in here, it almost looks as if it grew into these shapes. Like she caused it to grow and shaped it into chairs and shelving. I do apologize. I'm not used to guests that aren't on 4 feet or wings. I can't offer you any place to sit.
That's not a problem, Vi.
Why are you
Brown is
here?
silently unperturbed.
Why are you here?
That's a very long story. If you don't mind us explaining and you have the time.
I know
Fairly short story.
of everything you did up until you got on that ship in Luskin and sailed across the sea. Last I heard, you were helping the dwarves of Blazingdale to set up mining operations in a place called Saltmarsh. But my eyes and ears don't extend that far across the sea. So I was surprised when Pack told me that you were here. You've picked up some friends, and it appears you've lost one of your number.
Eldath called to Griffith. Not in terms of... Let me rephrase that. Eldath had a quest for Griffith.
Interesting. The gods, they do seem to be quite active and interested. Late. It still doesn't
Yes, that
tell
seems
me
to be a trend.
how or why you are here. Icewind Dale, what would bring you
Oh,
here?
you
And
know,
how is it that you're here all the way in the Lonely Wood before I know of your arrival?
By magic?
We attempted to teleport to our ship. Half of the ship was on the mountain south of Lonelywood. We did not expect to be here. The dragon is to blame.
The dragon?
large white one. The very large white one.
The ancient white.
Arbiatris.
Arbiatris.
Arbiatris, yes. I know of this dragon, but I've chosen to stay away. Especially since the last dragon I encountered, Griffith, wore its skin or its armor.
Mhm.
I may not have participated in that, but, well, the scent of that death still is on my hands. I don't know if the dragon would understand.
Most likely not.
Do you happen to know where this dragon lairs?
Out there, in the tundra. There are some say
So no then.
she lairs at Mount Reghed, but she's been seen all across the tundra.
That is helpful. Thank you.
So, did you have the woodcutter attacked?
I didn't choose the means by which the wolves and the moose would chase them away. They think and see and understand things better than they did before I woke them, but, well, the primal instinct still lies within them. But they acted on my orders, yes.
Vi, what's going on?
What's going on is that the people of the Lonely Wood come here into this forest, and they are claiming what belongs to nature, what belongs to the animals as their own. They cut down the trees, they bring them into their homes, they burn them, they ship them off to other towns where they build structures. Icewind Dale has always been a cold and frigid place, but especially since Auriel made this place her domain. You would think they would get the hint. They're not wanted here. I came here for solitude, to get away from the world. I told you when I last saw you I was tired. And I meant
Yes.
it. I was tired. The killing. I was tired. The perversion of nature. You saw what happened to my brother.
I did.
Belak, the outcast, they called him.
But Caleb to start.
That was his name in life.
Yes.
And perhaps he could have been brought back to Caleb. Perhaps he could have been redeemed. And at this, she is looking past you, Cantriel. She's looking over at Talmud. 2 blows from Gerta. 1 to the back of the head, and 1 to his face. Any chance at redemption was gone.
I am sometimes not capable of controlling what happens whenever a fight starts. Just something wells up inside.
I know
me.
about your anger and your rage, Talmud. We were together for several days as we pursued what turned out to be Caleb. What was left of Caleb. When I left you in Oakhurst, I went home. But I couldn't help thinking, the whole time you were in Oakhurst, and you were deciding what you were going to do next, all I could think about was Caleb's body, sitting there where we left it. The bottom of that chasm, that old citadel, and what was the grove of that tree. I went back for him. Do you know what I saw when I went down there? Do you know what happened when Grivith shattered the Gothias tree? There was a man there. He was very kind, but he was sick. I helped nurse him back to health. He told me that I could find a way, perhaps, to bring Caleb back. I didn't want to choose his methods. I wanted my Caleb back. Instead,
Did he give you a name?
he told me about what was happening up here. A name, the name of the man.
Yes.
His name was Gothias, of course.
Gulthias is dead.
The namesake of the tree.
No,
What do you mean he is dead?
She
Oh,
would
let
then
me-
explain
let me
to Vi
guess.
everything.
You killed him. So you tell her
Or
about what
explain to
happened
us.
at Night Vangespire.
Technically,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
She listens politely as you sort of fill in the blanks of what she didn't already know, and always with the Dawnbringers, as you've come to be known. Always it's the killing.
He may have been a sick man to you who offered you help. To us, he was a life-drinking predator who tried to kill us and take Cantriel.
I have no doubt
He
of the
chose his
dangers
path.
of him. He was a vampire, I know that. But he didn't harm me, and he offered to bring Caleb back, and when I declined, he accepted that, and then he told me about what was here and what I could do. And I packed Caleb up, and I traveled to the north. It was no easy task. Using the magic here, this old elven tomb, and she sort of looks pointedly at you, V.
Nope.
She breaks the fourth wall. She looks pointedly at you, Cantriel, and she says, I knew there was magic here. I could feel it calling. There's magic all over here. And with the magic of the moon dial, it amplified my magic, and I began awakening creatures around here. The moose was the first. It's very rare to find an albino moose. I assure you the rumors of his danger are quite true. He's very surly. I barely can control him. He seems to have taken over the packs of the wolves and some of the other creatures. But they only want the wood back to themselves, and, well, that's out of my hands now. I tried chasing some of the others away. You heard about the monster of Bremen? That's the largest thing I awakened. But all it's done is cut down on their fishing trade.
Are you trying to drive out or kill all of the 10-towners?
I want all of 10 towns gone. It will happen. And before long, I and Caleb will rule as brother and sister, serving Auriel, the goddess, the frost. With that,
Drown just kind of turns and looks at the rest of them, just kind of watching them for their reactions.
With that, she steps forward towards the sarcophagus. And she pushes on it, and it slides easily to the left. The lid just... Inside, you see the desiccated remains of Belak the Outcast. Whatever flesh remained now frozen, mostly practically mummified. You see that the skull is crushed and still caved in from where Gerta ended Belak's life. You also, somewhere in here, I imagine you recognized Cantriel and Talmud. That the headpiece that Vi wears is the antlered headpiece that Belak wore. There's something else in this sarcophagus that none of you have ever seen before. Surrounding Belak's body are several pieces of what look like uncut crystal, but it almost has a metallic look to it. I have found here the power that Gothias told me about. There was a great magical catastrophe here over 100 years ago. The fallout from that was this, and she holds up one of these pieces. With this, I will bring back Belak. I will destroy 10 towns, and I will rule over Icewind Dale. And in appearance only does she look like your friend Vi. There's a maniacal look in her eyes. There's a rage that you've never seen in her before. Tell me, Cantriel, Talmud. Tell me, Dawnbringers. Do you mean to stand in my way?
Vi, there are times whenever there are people who are close to us that have to move on. And it can be very, very difficult sometimes. But you have to know when to let go. What you are holding on to, it's changed you. When we came out of that place, Griffith took a seed from that tree, and it darkened his every step. It seems as though he was not the only one who walked away with something from that place that has changed him. You need to put this away. And if you don't...
Of all people telling me I need to put something aside, to put aside my anger, put aside my rage, you are the last one that should be talking to me, Talmud.
But I am the one who's talking to you. And if you want it to be only talk, then that's fine. But I speak another language as well, Vi, and you know it. And if you make me, I will regret it, but I will do it.
So, you would kill me. For what? You would side with the people that rape the forests, rape the land, stealing its precious minerals and trees, and driving the animals out, enslaving them. Oh yes, I saw your dogs tied to the sleds outside.
Will side with the people who showed me kindness. I have no knowledge or love for you. This is your final chance. Stand down and live.
Jake, while they're all having this conversation, Cantriel is going to position herself so they're all behind her, but she's still facing the sarcophagus.
Drowned snaps his fingers, and the staff of the sea appears in a spray of frozen
You're positioning
sea foam and crystals.
Positioning yourself so that the Dawnbringers are behind you?
Yeah, so she's facing the sarcophagus, but that's so that everyone else is behind her.
And the door, the only entrance or exit out of this place is behind you. She's on the far side. There's no doors or anything here.
Okay.
Look, Vi, we don't need to be at odds here. But these people, they understand this land. They have lived here a long time. They fish the lake and make sure they don't take too much. They harvest the forest and give it time to grow back. That is the only way to live in this kind of place. If you just take and never allow the land to grow back, all you do is hasten your own destruction.
Clever dwarf telling me about resource management. Talmud, where do those gems that now encrust Goethe come from? They are mined from the earth. It doesn't matter that they let the forest grow, or they let the fish continue so that they can feed themselves from them. The land clearly doesn't want them here. It doesn't want anyone here. I and the people that are rising beneath me, in support of me, alongside me, we will see that nobody is left. And if that includes you, Dawnbringers, then so be it.
Cantriel hears that and she uses her fire breath on the corpse of Caleb and sets him aflame.
Okay.
She doesn't say words. She just opens her mouth and this stream of bright blue fire comes out.
You cover the sarcophagus. You see Vi tower backwards, but only a step or two. She throws her hand up to sort of shield from the light. And in an instant, the bones are incinerated. You see that your dragon's breath has, in the extreme heat, instant heat, has actually fused some of this weird crystal material together. When the flames settle down and we hear a few pops and snaps of burning bone, Vi looks up at you, Cantriel. You've learned a few new tricks since last we met.
And you've learned nothing from your own brother.
You think that I would have shown you, Belhak? If there was any chance you could cause him harm, this is just the vessel that was his body. Belhak the outcast is now Belhak the malevolent. Clad in the armor of the Chardalin, he will wreak his destruction and vengeance upon all of 10 towns. And there's nothing you can do about it. And she just continues to cackle and laugh at you.
The last one who said that is dead now, as was the one before that. And the one before that. And the one before that. And the saddest thing at all, Vi, is that you even heard one of them say this to you directly, and yet you still end up here. I'm all for causes, but this is not one you could ever convince me is on the right side of anything. You've said your piece, and she nods to the sarcophagus. I've said mine. Lines are drawn.
And what is your end game? If I cross your line, is this the line? She takes a step forward. Or is it here? She takes another step forward. Where is the line with you?
When the fixation of one affects the lives of many. And that's one you've already crossed.
See, so much talking, and I don't have hotcakes to eat.
Well, the one thing that I can always count on from the Dawnbringers is for them to walk into situations they don't understand, get themselves in far over their heads. I'm afraid my plans are already far into action. And you are much too far away to do anything about it now. She holds up this piece of this material. She smiles at you. And she changes shape. Not in a wild shape. What you see instead is the illusion that was Vi standing before you drops, revealing another figure. Another familiar figure. Made entirely of wood. With slightly kobold features. As Tripo stands before you. Tripo, with his wooden shape, looks at you and says, I am bad luck. And he begins to enlarge, grow bigger. You see branches growing off of him. And you see actual leaves beginning to take shape. And as he grows, he presses up against the ceiling. Pieces of the ceiling of this chamber begin falling in on you, breaking through the top of this burial mound. He is now the size of a tree. And that is where we are going to end tonight's session.
Of course.
All right. Who among you saw Vi being at the heart of this?
Definitely not.
I knew M did because I had to tip my hand a little bit because I was trying to find Vi's stat block. So I think M knew that Vi was coming into play at some point in the future. For those that don't know, Vi was a character that M played, a human druid that was with the Dawnbringers before they took the name Dawnbringers during Season 1, The Sunless Citadel. And they destroyed Belloc the Outcast, who was a corrupt druid who turned out to be Vi's brother, Caleb. So this is quite interesting. And when we return next week, it looks like you're going to be fighting a much larger and more dangerous version of Treepo. And figuring out where in the heck Vi actually is and what she's up to and what is this weird crystal rock stuff. So with that, I want to thank everybody who watched with us tonight, who tuned in, very active in the chat tonight. I want to say a special thank you to any of the moderators that were helping to keep an eye out for the trolls after that one got in. I always appreciate anybody that keeps an eye out for that stuff. I just appreciate you all being here, partaking in this adventure with us. And whether you're lurking or active in the chat, doesn't matter if you're just lurking the whole time and never speak up. We appreciate you nonetheless. Tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on twitch.tv/miniTerrain domain is another episode of Friday Night Takeover. Tomorrow night we have Karen from Myth and Gears is running what is it called again? Torch and I forget the name of it. Matt Click has been developing a series of one-page adventures available on his Patreon, and Karen is running one of those adventures. I just don't remember what it's called. But
Briars and something.
Oh, this one had torches in the name, I think.
Oh, maybe not.
But anyway, Dwight will be playing in that game and is also going to be producing that game tomorrow night. So you definitely want to tune in and check that out. We've got, counting tomorrow night's episode, we got 3 more weeks of Friday Night Takeover's first season. The next 2 weeks after that will actually be Matt Click is going to be running some Harbinger. And our last episode of the season is Connor from Dice on Ice running a Kryphoth one-shot, which is the D&D 5e book that Em and Connor published. It's available on DriveThruRPG. I don't remember if we have a chat command for that or not. If we do, it's exclamation point Kryphoth. If we don't, I'll have to make sure there is one, because we've talked about it a lot. But definitely check that out. And then on Sunday, I froze for a moment. On Sunday, I will be on Talon and Claw for our usual. No, I take that back. I think we are taking Sunday off because Sunday is the 14th of February, and a lot of us would get in trouble if we were playing video games online. So I'll double check with that. You'll have to follow Talon and Claw on Twitter to get the lowdown on that, but I believe we are taking the day off. We'll be back here again. See, I mentioned Talon and Claw, and they show up in the chat right at the tail end. But that's okay. You can type in exclamation point schedule. You can see all the great stuff we got going on. We talked at the break about starting on Wednesday, the 17th, next week. Jeremy will be debuting his new mini-series on alternate Wednesdays right here on twitch.tv called Convergence, which is a homebrew setting of his. I've actually played one session in that a couple of years ago. I played a Kensei monk dwarf. I remember that. Jeremy's settings are always amazing, so you want to be able to tune in for that. See some top tier GMing and world building at play right here on the channel. I was trying to vamp a little bit. stalling to see who is streaming. I think it looks like our friend Cypher of Tyr is actually streaming. Looks like doing some Tom Clancy's The Division. So I think we'll throw a raid over at Tanya as we get ready to head out of here. But of course, before we head out of here, I just want to thank these awesome players. I always thank them at the end of every session. But I just love that they create these characters, and they just buy all in on whatever comes forward. Talking rabbits and wolves and a moose, and oh hey, by the way, your old friend is now possibly your biggest enemy or one of your biggest enemies and up to no good. I just love DMing this group. I look forward to Thursdays to get to play with this group. So I've been we're caught up on our VODs. I've been trying every Saturday to get the VODs up on YouTube. So if you want to catch up on the campaign, if you haven't already, all episodes of all seasons of Dawnbringers are on youtube.com/mini terrain domain. So as always, I want to thank Dan, V, M, Ted, and Jeremy, without whom it would just be me talking to myself for 3 hours. We're going to go ahead and end the stream the same way we end every stream, and then immediately kick it over into a raid to Cypher of Tyr. When you get there, this might not make sense from tonight, but we're still going to use this battle cry. When you show up over there, just hit the chat with whatever emote you got and say, I have a crown.
Yes, please.
Watch Harper's Tale if you want to know what that means. But we're going to go ahead and end the stream the same way we end every stream, and you can say it with me if you want.
I have a crown?